A torn hip labrum can cause serious pain that, if not managed properly, can lead to hip arthritis or even a hip surgery. Most hip labrum tears can be managed without surgery and even improve enough to get you back to doing the things that you love to do. In today's video, I'll be covering the top 6 exercises that you need to be doing to get your hip labrum tear under control and improving without surgery. The first 4 exercises are focused on getting pain relief and mobility back for somebody dealing with a severely flared up, painful torn hip labrum. The last 2 exercises are more advanced exercises that are for someone that's still having symptoms of a torn hip labrum, but it's no longer severe, it's a little more manageable. And just to give you a quick tidbit on how hip labrum tears happen, I've got more videos on this. By the way, there's a playlist linked in the description that has more help for torn hip labrums. But just to make sure that you understand why we're doing these exercises, the labrum is on the rim of the socket here of the ball and socket joint. And usually the hip labrum tears happen towards the top and front part of the hip. So pain very often is going to be in this area on the front of the hip on the affected side. And the root problem that usually sets up a hip labrum tear, one that wasn't caused by an accident like a car accident, is that the ball is too far forward on the socket and it's rubbing against the cartilage right there, the labrum. That's what the labrum is made of. It's made out of cartilage. So if you have consistent chronic overpressure on the labrum, the cartilage right here on the front part of the hip socket, then you begin to tear it. So these exercises are focused on getting easy mobility back and even repositioning the ball into the middle of the socket to alleviate that pressure on the front of the hip joint. Now, the first exercise is really simple. It's hip fidgeting. All you have to do is sit down somewhere, just like so, and just wiggle your legs in and out. It looks like I'm fidgeting. Nobody knows that you're doing an exercise for your hip labrum. And if anything, they're just going to say, hey, do you have to go to the bathroom? Are you okay? And the best way to do this is to do it for a few minutes at a time, 2-3 minutes. You don't have to lean forward like I am on my arms. You can lean back. You can be resting your arms on an armrest. You can have your hands in your lap. You can just do one leg, the leg that's affected. And the point of this exercise is to move that ball and socket joint in a nice, easy way that doesn't provide it a lot of pressure. You're not moving into any sort of resistance. And what you're doing is you're circulating the fluid inside the joint that can help to nourish the cartilage where the tear is on your labrum. You want to make sure not to tire out any of your muscles doing this. If you do this long enough, you might start to get fatigued or tired in some of the muscles in your hip. That's too much because you could actually be feeding into the problem that's setting up your hip labrum tear. You want to do this in such a way that leaves you feeling just fine afterwards. The second exercise is called bent knee fallouts. Now this one's more of a range of motion exercise. You're going to potentially run into an area of motion that is going to hurt. You don't want to push into it. In fact, find it the first time if you even have a painful range of motion and stay out of it. None of these exercises should ever be aggravating for you. So you're going to have to lie down on your back with your knees bent, just like this. Get your feet at a comfortable distance from your body, feet flat on the bed or the floor, wherever you're going to be doing this. And then all you're going to do is drop one knee out, slow and controlled, as far as it'll go. Once you feel like the rest of your body, your other leg wants to go, that's too far. You've already maxed out the hip motion that's available. So you only need to go as far as when your body wants to start to move. For me, it's about right there. Then bring it back in, nice and easy, and do the same thing on the other side, even if it doesn't hurt you, just to train your hip muscles to move independently of each other. You want to do this for a minute or 2, nice and easy. It should not cause any muscles to get tired. It should not cause any pain. It should just feel like simple, easy motion. And in fact, if you do have pain, like let's say your knee only wants to go out half of what I'm doing or somewhere in between, and it starts to hurt, as you go along in this exercise, you might find that you can go a little bit further each time you drop your leg out. And after doing this for a minute or 2, you might find that your legs are moving near the same, if not the same. Now, some people ask, can I move both legs in and out at the same time? I think that's fine. I just like to train it one leg at a time just for neuromuscular control, for control of your body, for coordination purposes. But if we're focused more so on allowing the labrum, the cartilage tear, the labrum tear to heal, then it doesn't really matter that you're moving one leg at a time or both legs at the same time. It's kind of nitpicky. The third exercise is glute squeezes. Now, this begins to address the root problem. The previous two exercises are just simply to calm down the joint, to calm down the labrum, to get the pain under control. Now, this does help with pain control too, but it's moving a bit more into pulling the ball into the socket. So all you're gonna do is sit down in a comfortable place. It could be a chair, a computer chair. It doesn't have to be a soft chair, it could be a hard chair, whatever's comfortable for you. Feet can be flat on the floor or dangling, it doesn't matter. All you need to do is think about squeezing your butt muscles. So you can see when I squeeze my butt muscles, my whole body lifts a little bit because my muscles thicken under me. When you do that, you should feel like your body goes up. Now here's a key thing you need to work on. This is very important. When you squeeze your butt muscles, when you tighten those glutes, you don't want to fire the muscles on the front of your hips and thighs here. You need to make sure those muscles are quiet and not activating. The reason for this is, if you fire both the muscles on the back of the hip and the front of the hip and thigh, you're going to promote the ball being shoved into the socket inappropriately and causing that pinching sensation, that painful torn hip labrum sensation more. You only want to practice firing the muscles on the back of the hip, the glutes or the butt muscles, so that you can promote that ball being sucked backwards away from the front of the joint where it hurts. So once you can figure that out, you might need to play around with it. You might need to not squeeze so hard. Figure out the percentage of intensity that you can squeeze your glutes without your thigh muscles working too. In other words, if you squeeze at 100% in your glutes and you feel your thigh muscles working, back off to say 50% and see if that's better for you. You might even need to back off down to 10% or 5% in extreme cases, or maybe you can do it well at 90% or 95%. Wherever you're at, it's okay. Work from the percentage that you can fire your glutes without your quads and your hip flexors also firing, and hang out there. Then hold it for 10 seconds. Practice holding your glutes tight for 10 seconds without these muscles working at the intensity that works for you. As you get better at that, I'm doing it right now, you can gradually increase the percentage, and you eventually want to get to as close to 100% intensity of your glute squeezing without your thigh muscles and hip flexors working. Now, an alternative to doing this, because it might work better for you right away, is doing this lying down in the same position I was for that bent knee fallout exercise. So let me show you what I mean. Knees bent just like this, tighten the glutes from right here. This works sometimes to do it better without the thighs working. And another way to do it lying down is with your legs straight. Just relax your legs and then try to work the glutes there without the front of the hips and thighs working as well. Any of these positions could be beneficial for you. In fact, you might even work better standing up. Sometimes that helps if you just stand up and make sure this is relaxed on the front of your body, and just squeeze from back here, tighten these muscles without the front working. That could get it for you too. There isn't really a right or wrong as far as doing it sitting first or lying down or standing up. What matters is that you can get your glutes to work and then hold it without the front of the hips and thighs working too. Now, this is an exercise that I would tell anyone with a hip labrum tear, you need to get obsessed with this exercise. You need to be doing it all the time. I mean, you should be sitting in your car driving, squeezing your glute muscles, and as long as you're safe. You should be having a meal, squeezing your glute muscles without anybody noticing. You should be sitting through a movie or a show or watching YouTube, thinking about holding your glutes tight without the front of your hips and thighs working too. The more of this you can do, the better off your hip's going to be. You're going to consistently take more pressure off, and then you're going to set up your glutes to work into a strengthening exercise, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Now, the fourth exercise, so this is still one that you want to be doing if you're still flared up in your hip labrum tear. This is a hand-heel rocking exercise. So you're gonna get onto your hands and knees on the floor, on a bed, wherever you feel comfortable. And you could be with your hands open flat or on your knuckles, it doesn't matter. Then you're just gonna rock back, nice and easy. Get your bottom towards your heels, like a dog or a cat sits on its haunches, and rock back and forth in a comfortable range of motion. You don't want to stretch into pain. You can play with the position of your knees. You can open them apart more or bring them together. There isn't a right or wrong. What I find is usually the knees more wide tends to be more comfortable, but some people are fine with their knees closer together. It just depends on your genetics, your anatomy, the way that your body's built. find what works for you. And I would do this for 30 reps, 60 reps, not more than a couple of minutes is usually beneficial. Once you start doing more than 2 minutes worth of this, you get diminishing returns, meaning it's not going to help you that much more for doing additional time or reps. But some people will do this for a long time because they just like the way that it feels. They feel that it really does help them. My advice is more guidelines, not super specific. I'm giving you guidance on how to improve your hip situation, but it doesn't always need to be followed to the absolute T in order to see the best benefits. I'll always highlight with you, what's really important, like firing your glutes without your quads and hips firing too. Okay, these past 4 exercises are for if you're dealing with a severely flared up hip labrum tear. If you have that situation and you want to be doing those exercises about every hour, literally about every hour should be enough to really fast get your symptoms under control so that you can move into strengthening exercises that help to heal your labrum even further. If you can't do that frequency, find what works for you, because maybe a few times a day is going to be beneficial for you. What you need to know though is that you can't just do these exercises once or twice a day and expect to have a massive improvement. It needs to be very frequently because of that motion you need to get inside your joint, the fluid that needs to circulate, and the pressure you need to take off where the tear is. You need to get those glutes working right to remove that pressure. If you just do these exercises once or twice a day, it's not enough time for that fluid to move around and for that pressure to be removed. It needs to be consistently throughout the day. The good news is as you get better at that, then you get more glute control. The strengthening exercises don't need to happen as often. So these next 2 exercises are going to be more like 3 to 5 times a day, basically like 30 to 50 reps a day. You can even do more. You can go up to 100 reps as long as you're not in pain doing so. The first exercise is squat holds. So I know I just said squats and you're probably thinking, oh, it's going to hurt my hip. But we're going to do little tiny baby squats and we're going to hold them in a very high position and it's going to be comfortable for your hips. So what you're going to do is stand up. And let me stand sideways here so you can see me from the side view. Before you even do any version of a squat, you need to make sure that you can tighten your glutes back here without your hips tightening on the front. It should feel like these muscles are working and there's not much going on here on the front. Once you've gotten that, then you're ready to do the squat. You're literally just going to barely bend your knees. That's it. You don't need to go down any more than that. You're not doing a full-on deep squat. You're just barely unlocking your knees with your glutes tight. Now let me give you a full body view so you can see what my feet are doing and what my knees are doing. So glutes tight, knees out, because that when you shove your knees out, it helps to get your glutes working better. And then you're also doing a forward hip motion, like a forward hip thrust motion. So my feet are in position, glutes are tight, hips are forward, knees out, and then you're just holding here. You're going to count to 10, slowly count 10 seconds. And what you should feel are the glutes tiring out, the glutes working, tensioning, and fatiguing. And you should not feel that much work here in the front. Now you might feel some, but the glutes should greatly outdo what the quads and the hip flexors in the front here are doing. If you feel the quads and the hip flexors working a lot, that means that you're using these muscles too much and it's going to compress the front of the hip joint. It's going to pull that ball forward on the socket and make more pressure onto the labrum. If you can do this strengthening exercise, it's critically important that you practice it a lot to really boost up the strength of your glutes. The more you can practice it without your hips hurting, the faster you can take that pressure off the labrum and the faster you can get back to doing the things that you love to do. Now, once you feel like you've mastered holding your glutes without the front of the hips and the front of the thighs working, then you're ready to go into exercise number 6, which is squat reps, repetitions. Now it's virtually the same thing, except no holding. And the point of this is to teach your muscles to work faster so that it can carry over into your everyday activities, like when you bend down to pick up something, when you walk, when you do your normal everyday things. So instead of just coming down and holding, now you're gonna come down and come up. Come down and come up. Here's the key things. When you come down, your knees need to be going out, hips need to come forward. You need to always come down into that position. You see how it's important that you practice the last exercise? Because if you can't successfully do this every time, you're going to do your reps wrong, you're going to use your hip flexors and your quads, and you're going to make your hip labrum tear worse. You have to make the glutes dominate the motion. When you come down, knees go out, hips come forward every time. Then when you come up, when you're in the up position, you need to make sure that your glutes are tight up here. So glutes are working down here by shoving your hips forward, knees out, and then when you come up, glutes are tight. So in real time, it looks like this. Knees out, hips forward, but tight at the top. Knees out, hips forward, but tight at the top. And you should only go as fast as you can go while controlling the motion very well. If you can't control the motion very well, you need to go back to the holds, and you need to train your glutes to work more consistently as you do squats. You need to hold it and practice holding it while you're doing the squat. As you can see here, I'm going a little bit lower. This tends to happen. We started out just like that, but as you get more comfortable with using your glutes better, the glutes get stronger and they can support you better as you go lower. And eventually you might go into some deeper squats. As long as you're controlled and it doesn't feel painful for your hip, you can do that, and it's actually a good thing for you to improve the mechanics inside your hip joint. Once you progress to exercise number 6 and you're doing squat reps, what I recommend is doing 10 reps and doing 5 to 10 sets a day, meaning 50 to 100 reps total in a day. And you can spread it out at first, especially if you're learning this and you're getting used to it. But you can work to where you're doing them all in one sitting, all in like 10 minutes, for instance, or 15 minutes, whatever time it takes you. As long as it's controlled and you're using your glutes properly, you should go at the pace that you can sustain that. As you get better at it, and if you can go a little bit faster, that trains your glutes more. And eventually you need to add weights to this and go into other exercises. But these 6 exercises are a great starting point to get that hip labrum tear pain under control and then begin to heal it naturally. Hey, if this video was helpful for you, please give it a thumbs up and share this with somebody that you think needs to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our helpful videos that we put out every single week. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.